Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome to Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasick. I'm Mo, and every week I'm asking today's most captivating artists how they got their acts together. This show isn't about their best or most famous or most lucrative work. It's about the work that means the most to them, their creative process, and why they make their art. This week's guest is a writer, comedian, and actor. You know him from HBO's Search Party, True TV's At Home with Amy Sedaris, and Comedy Central's The Opposition with Jordan Klepper. Along with Aaron Jackson, he's the writer, executive producer, and star of the A24 film Dix the Musical, and his new show, Ta-Da! Directed by Tony Award-winning, oh my God, I get to say Tony Award-winning.
You're the first one!
Okay. Tony Award-winning director Sam Pinkleton is opening Off-Broadway at the Greenwich House Theater. Please welcome to the pod, Josh Sharp. Ready, set, show!
Oh!
You did really good on that.
Wow, it is true. I've been on the podcast tour, but yours is the first I've done since Sam P was Tony winner. So
that is so cool.
Not a single podcast host has gotten to say that phrase that you've said to me, at least.
This is a weird power. I don't want to give this to me too much because I'm like, oh, the first. Ooh. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that is really special. Isn't that so delightful? Just how like also easy and normal it feels.
Yeah, it ruled. It was so weird. The Tonys this year, I had so many dear friends get nominated. Some like in the same category, like true like best friends were all getting nominated, and people I've just known forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, I don't know, magic. Like I didn't go because I wanted to watch it on TV with friends, but then bopped around to all their after parties, and then ended up with my friend Kimmy, who wrote the play John Proctor is the Villain.
Oh,
who's
beautiful.
Like grew up with my boyfriend, like best friends from a rural
Sweet
Georgia town.
Angel
We
boy.
ended the night at the damn Plaza Hotel having room service banana splits at 6 a.m. And I was just like, this is why you're alive. You know?
Miss Eloise found dead. We love
Truly,
her.
It was joyful. But anyway, Sam P, Tony winner.
But it is so delightful in that way too, where like, I really mean it, where it's like, to me, it's the most logical thing in the world. Like we've been around these folks for so long. They're so sickeningly talented. I'm like, of course. It's not even like, of course it's a dream come true, but I'm like, no, it's the most logical thing these people are being given these accolades.
It is true. And it's nice when it happens to people who are lovely and enjoyable as well.
Yes.
Even when it happens to people who are awful but talented, you're like, well, Slay, you know, you won the trophy. You were the best at the talent.
100%.
But when they're also lovely and nice, like Sam and Cole and others are, it's like, well, that rules.
It's really special. It's like so fun because we grow up being told like it's cutthroat, it's all rigged, and then you're kind of like the most special people. I know the most special people I know are getting awards. Like that's so cool.
It's also the beautiful ghetto we've built for ourselves that I feel like when people talk about the industry, I'm like, I get that and I experience it to a certain degree, but we've built this little like queer cabal of like this little podcast coven of our sort of people and generation, real. And I'm like, especially when I talk to people who are based in LA who are maybe in a certain conversation, I'm I guess our crew is pretty chill about all that shit. Like people sort of are nice and like each other.
and
that's not even an LA, New York thing. I don't mean to say it that way. I just mean when you're like, it's more just the coven we've built.
And what's interesting is when people ask me about that, of like how you did that, whatever, like I'm kind of like, we did it from jump. Like it was from jump. We've had this feeling of support for each other. So it wasn't something we had to face it, like when it hit.
Well, you want to get into it? A lot of us met doing improv or story pirates. It's like a lot of us met doing like improv in basements.
Huge nerd games.
You know, like truly nerd games that are criminally cooperative or doing theater for children. So I do think it like,
you're also literally ostracized for not being cooperative, right? Like it's like.
Oh, literally. Yeah.
You're not a part of the game. The game, it's literally called the game.
Yeah.
No, I do think that is core when I like think about the qualities, like the qualities of an improviser do make for an important community member, no matter what.
I'm so glad that's where I started. Which everything's different now, and in ways that I don't mean to like be an old dog, but I'm just like
Being old
happy
dog.
that I came up through a thing that was so like IRL and collaborative. You know what I mean?
Well, you started that in college, didn't you?
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. I did a little in high school and then I did sketch comedy in college. Yeah. Hello
Yeah.
Shovelhead was my group. It was huge.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Did you have a fun name for your group?
In college, it was just called CHIPS, the Chapel Hill Players. So,
Whoa.
not really, but you know, sort of
That's status.
business-like.
Yeah, you got to get straight to the point. Well, to the point of my point, we are going to jump off. I'm very excited for your Off-Broadway debut.
Me
could
too.
you give? I know, ta-da. Could you give the listeners a little what we call Too Long Didn't Read, TLDR, on your show that is premiering Off-Broadway?
I would be glad to. We'll start with sort of the paragraph blurb, but then we can really get into the journey of it all.
Yes,
Because it is, like most projects in this industry, like a long meandering journey. But it's sort of the canonical, you know, solo, stand-up oriented off-Broadway run, as so many of us have done before. And
in the Cabal.
In the Cabal, yes. And Mike and Carly are producing that. I say that mostly because they did Oh Mary, which people know about, but then they've also just done so many of these types of shows, like Kate Berlant's Kate and Jacqueline Novak's Get on Your Knees, and they did a lot of Birbiglia's early stuff. So I feel like in many ways, the DNA of the show is one of those where it's like 80 minutes of stand-up that is sort of like narrative and thematic and has like a theatrical bent. But then it's also sort of inside of this device where I have a 2000 slide PowerPoint that I'm going through on stage, and you know I'm the one doing it, and it's like tightly synced to the words I'm doing. So it's sort of like one of those shows inside of this tightrope walk, which is I've memorized a dumb amount of cues that are intensely choreographed, and you sort of know I could fuck it up at any second. If you took that away, it would just be sort of, I think, one of those talking into a mic, telling my thematic stand-up shows.
Which you would brilliantly do.
And I love those shows, but this just sort of, I don't know, for me became a little more exciting and interesting and postmodern. And weirdly, the more I've done it, it opens up like types of jokes I haven't seen before, where I'm doing a lot of like, I'm saying one thing and you're reading another behind me. Or I'm filling in gaps in my speech. Like sometimes I'll like hold and make a face and you'll like see a thing behind me. And it's like, I can sort of like treat it like a scene partner.
Oh, it 100% has to be.
And then also sometimes I'm just like, something I love about Jacqueline Novak and many of our friends, but Jacqueline's like way of turning a phrase that when I watched her special, I wanted subtitles on because I just like to see it as prose. So there's moments where I'm like, I have intentionally chosen these words and I want you to know it. And so when it comes off the cuff, I want you to see it come up like prose, where it's like, I said this phrase in this way. So sometimes you're just seeing like the words coming up on the screen as I say them when I say them, you know?
Oh, which is like, to me, like, it's like I process in that way too. Like some people are like visual processors, data processors. And so it's like to get that new layer in is so beautiful.
Well, the first time I did it as like an hour, a year and a half ago in Washington, D.C., because I truly was just like, is this
Wild
a thing?
place to start. Yeah.
Well, truly, I was too afraid to do it in Brooklyn because I was like, this might suck absolute ass, and I need to do it somewhere where it's like, it feels totally fine.
Yeah. That's fair.
A friend came up to me afterwards and was like, oh my God, I love what you're doing. It's like such a, it's in conversation with the way we watch everything now, because so many people are like watching things while they're also on their phones. Like it's so clearly about that. And not one thought in my head was the intention, but there's that thing where when someone like sees something in a thing you're doing that's not there, but you actually like, yeah, that's interesting. That I was like, okay, we're on to something. You're starting to extrapolate things I haven't even put in it. That was like, okay, that was like an affirmative, like, okay, I'm on to something. You're like, you're gleaning things from it that I was not putting in there.
And it's so fun because then no matter what, it's information, because you can either go, oh, don't like that, and you still change your thing, or you go, love it, I'll follow that feeling. Like either way.
And then I wrote a whole part about how that's not what I'm doing while I actively do it. Like, and that's the other thing too, is a lot of it is about honoring that stand-up is so scripted, even though people pretend it's not, especially in the era of crowd work. I was like, I like that I'm often trying to make you believe I'm doing things off the cuff or like conversational in tone or like specific to this moment, and then proving with slides that I'm like, no, this is all planned. And subverting
yourself, fully subverting yourself.
So there's a lot of that too, of me trying to sort of like trick you into believing that we're just, you know, chit-chatting the way stand-ups do. And then I'm like, gotcha, bitch. Actually, every single
like,
syllable of that was planned.
Yes, which is also impressive, but your pace is so fast that they can't sit in the impressive so much, so they have to go to the next joke. It's like...
I like that. I like sort of overload.
You're good. You're very good at that too, though, because it's like you don't sit in your own joke for it. You let them unpack it when they have the moment to, and I think a lot of stand-ups sit in it and wait for the folks to do it. You know what I mean?
Everybody's got their own way of doing it, and they're all valid. But I also remember when I was like baby stand-up, and it's so funny when people ask you the question, you're not asking this of just like, who are your, who do you admire? Who are your idols or who are your influences? Yeah. It's all peers. It's all like people that we like came up with together. But someone I remember when I was baby stand-up and she was like slightly above baby stand-up for me, Lisa Traeger.
I knew you were going to say Lisa Traeger.
She would always like to me, I would call it like riding the wave, where she's like, I'm setting the pace for you. You're not setting the pace for me. And it meant sometimes like laughs were almost like, she was riding over them, but it created these like barrels of like, you're going to get what you get. And I'm going to just keep sort of like at you. And I loved that always. And I was like, that's how I like to do it, but I'm seeing you do it more successfully.
Yes. And you know what she's delighted by? The audience reaction. So when she opened up for your D'Angelo show in Union Hall after you did at Legion, she did that bad clam joke where she's like, I just want to eat one bad clam. And the audience specifically, and I'd seen her do that joke a bunch about how it'd be like a weight loss thing. And this is, how many years ago. So people were just losing it. And then she started laughing at people losing it. Mm-hmm. And it was this call and response back and forth, to your point, where it wasn't like, it was going with it. It was still being able to drive the car. She wasn't distracted or like indulged by it, but she was having fun with the scene partner of the audience.
Yeah, I like that. That
is so cool.
Anyway, that's the TLDR on what the show is.
Does Lisa know that?
I wonder if she does. I feel like I've told her that before, but I should tell her again.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a few people when I was baby stand-up, like her, and of course Kate, and of course Justin Sayer. They were like people I was seeing where I was like, oh, there's something what you do that I see in what I do that is like emboldening to be like, I should just keep doing this thing I want to do because you're doing a version of it too and it works for me.
Because I'm so interested when you're saying baby stand up, because it's like you to me have always been such a because I like to let people hear how you even perceived yourself so they can give themselves permission to be something even if they don't perceive themselves as it.
Smart.
You know what I mean?
Well, my journey to stand-up was I was already like established at UCB, had done like a bunch of sketch and improv, then started to be like, I should do stand-up. Honestly, Chris Gethard, who was like one of my UCB daddies, took me out to lunch and was like, bro, you got to do stand-up. And what you don't know is the second you start, you'll realize you're already better than a lot of them because you've been doing performance for so long at UCB. Like you are going to start at step one and be better than a lot of them. So like, just do it. And then also my entree was less the stand-up circuit. I've never done an open mic. Yikes.
Oops. Sorry.
Ingenue.
It's giving ingenue.
If that works for you, process slay. For me, I just felt like it was a weird, like, judgy space. It's like, I'd rather say it out loud to a wall than to an open mic room. But what I would do was a lot of storytelling shows, because some of those were at UCB, and I got in with like Adam Wade and some of the big storytellers, and they booked me on their shows. And then what was nice was storytelling shows give you really long sets. Like it was not like the normal, 2 minutes at open mic, 8 at a show. Storytelling's like 15 or 20.
Yeah.
So I would have to just come up with like 15 or 20 minutes, and I would always be like, okay. And I think Birbiglia is good at this. I was always like, what's the sort of general thrust of the narrative? But I'm basically going to do stand-up. Like, it's just the Christmas tree and I'm like hanging ornaments on it. Where it's like, I sort of want to tell this story, but I'm going to go on a billion tangents to tell jokes or do bits.
Well, to the point of what you're doing.
And then I think that developed my style of being like, oh, there's always sort of one thread I'm following, but we're like zigging and zagging everywhere. Came from doing that.
And making people feel that.
But in my mind, then I started doing stand-up shows, and in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm baby stand-up now. But I do think maybe I was like, better at stand-up from the jump than some people can be by virtue of having done a lot of performance already.
Yes.
And then honing it in stand-up shows where it was like, I wasn't just like coming in being like, I got 30 good seconds. I was like having to build 20 minutes like sort of quickly.
Yeah, but to that point though, like, because you even had done like bit shows, like you and Aaron would do bits on shows.
Exactly.
And so it's like on stand-up shows.
We would do our versions of like alt stand-up because you were sort of already playing those rooms as sketch people.
100%. So you were in that space. And so it's so funny to say like baby stand up because it's this idea that you might have to like bite your teeth, or what is it? Chomp your teeth?
Sure.
Cut your teeth.
Cut your teeth. Cut your teeth.
Yeah,
That's
there we go. Thank you. But cut your teeth because you have to do open mics or whatever. And like, so I'm not that. I couldn't be that. But then it takes someone being like, hey, yes, you are.
And you have to just be bad and do it and keep doing it, which for me was not that I was never bad doing stand-up. I was, but I feel like more of my being bad and keeping doing it years were in college and then early UCB of like, learning to do improv and writing awful sketches, that like some of that was the like, I'm not good at this yet, but I'm going to keep doing it. I feel like that was happening there. And then happened some in stand-up, but that you were able to sort of, this was another Gethard thing. He was like, you already have a comedic voice. Like you've already developed that, which is the hardest part most stand-ups have. So he's like,
good reflection.
You just have to sort of like apply it in this new space. And that felt true, where I was like, not that there weren't things to figure out, but it felt like, oh, I'm at least starting on first base or something.
Have you ever spotted McDonald's hot, crispy fries right as they're being scooped into the carton? And time just stands still. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
No, you know what's so funny is I was excited to ask about your process because people struggle a lot generatively of like an idea, a thing. It's like, I don't think any of the thing you've had to work on seems to be like the voice, the ideas. Like it's always anything around it or how it's couched, how it's carried, and like that process. But it is interesting when someone's like, so what's your process to have this beautiful idea? It's like, you're a whimsical artist who will literally go be inspired by anything. It's like, that's it.
It's true. Like I just wander around in the park and talk to
you
myself.
You do. Yes.
I'm like, I think that's more important than like audience feedback for the most part. Not that I'm like devoid of audience feedback, but for the most part, it's like, if I'm putting this up here, it's because I think it works. And that's sort of all that matters to me. And so maybe I'll learn things from doing it in front of an audience about how to time it or how to make it hit. But usually it's like, it's not really about them.
I love this. How'd you
like,
come to trust that though?
That's a great question. I don't know that I have an answer for that. Maybe it was just by, I'm coming up with this on the fly and I might not stand by it literally 5 minutes from now. But I do think being improv baby, you did learn how to just like only do it for you were so used to doing practice groups where it's truly just like you and your team in a room alone, no audience.
Disgusting.
And then you do shows, quote unquote, that were just for the other teams on the bill. So I think it was ingrained in you of like, I just do this for myself and these other people. And I learn what makes me feel good doing it rather than being like, oh, this hit in front of an audience, it must be good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I do feel like you had to develop that sense of just like, do I think this is good? And do these people I trust think this is good more than, and is it serving the group or serving the piece more than being like killed with an audience?
I think that's a really good point. And what's interesting to me, because to me it feels like a very divine feminine, like out of gender, but receptivity.
First of all, go off.
Yeah, absolutely. But it really feels like, and so a lot of folks, whenever I've talked about their process, are more sheepish about this, because people are like, it sounds egotistical, or they have to answer to it, because it's like, no, I'm not doing it for the validation. I'm doing it for the feeling or the people I'm interacting with and the joy of the feeling. And of course, externally, I would love to make money from it. I would love to be successful.
And also, I understand there's a requisite aspect of like, this work only functions with you in the room. You know what I mean? It's like, like there is a part of me that sort of is like, I could sort of do this alone in my apartment and be happy to a degree, but I get that that's not what it is. So it's like, so thus we are like all in this thing together, you know?
But you are very good at putting words to something, and not everybody was able to say what you just said in a second. You know what I mean? Like, and I find people who have a more receptive creativity that is for themselves and for the nourishment of themselves have a lot to answer for, and therefore have a harder time giving themselves permission to do it.
You're right. I guess there is an aspect of it where it's just like, what are we alive for if not this? I don't know. I know everyone doesn't feel that, but I just do sort of. I'm like, isn't this why we're alive, to like
100%.
come up with fun little ideas and then do them with our friends? Like, that's sort of the most gratifying part about being a human being.
Oh, I get like Spectrum Joy the house down when it's like my friend Demi and Catherine, they do bits, and like we'll do bits sometimes, and we're just sitting there and we'll have done one for like a half hour and I'll start crying because I'm like, this is the happiest I've ever been in my life. I'm so present. I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm laughing with people who speak my language. Like it's heavenly.
It is the funny part of being a comedian, and comedians are the most obnoxious people in the world. I
Do you
understand, but
feel
I
this
truly am
way?
just like, well, sort of, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
categorically speaking, at least. But I'm like, but the most fun thing in the world is sitting with funny people and all making each other laugh. Like, that is my favorite thing in the world. It's just like sitting in a room and all of you expertly sniping bits. That's my favorite. I don't need a single soul there. And that's maybe the improv thing, where it's just like, if the three of us are here
Bing bang
cracking
boom.
each other up, I'm like, I'm good. That's all I need.
That's God. That's God. That's God.
That's
The flower. That's God. I feel this way. But again, that's why I do think it's one of the most powerful creative types, because it's like it answers to nothing. It just exists. And I'm wondering also how you put that to paper, because it is someone who is so expansive. You, I always think, are really good about having outside, like my friend Bree, she has a lot of outside nourishment where you'll go seek experiences that have nothing to do with monetary kickback or community, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
of
so,
course.
but I'm like, how do you bring that energy back into work that makes a career?
Oh, great question. I guess I agree with Brie. I do feel like filling yourself up with things just
Yeah.
as, again, but it's not even about the work. It's just like, it's why I want to be alive, really. But then it does inform the work. It's nice to just be outside of the bubble of your career as much as you can be. Like
Yeah.
I love being in spaces where no one knows who I am, and even more so, no one's ever heard of Bowen, even. You know, like people where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, none of our little coven means anything to you. I think
Yeah,
those
yeah.
spaces are really healthy to be in, partly for ego death and partly just for being like, oh, you have to be seeking things that are strange and new and different and fun and
Well,
challenging.
there's also vulnerability because they have to like you for you in that moment. There's no,
Exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, maybe there's that, but I'm not normally thinking about it in connection to the work as much as I am just like, this is the kind of person I want to be, you know, is like one
Yeah.
who does things.
No, but I love it. So, but I'm saying, like, I think you could do things forever. It's not even connection to the work. I'm like, how do you get back to the work almost when you have all this inspiration?
Oh, sure. So much of it is just like project based. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's just like, either it's like, oh, Aaron and I have this thing we want to work on, and we're sort of like either holding each other mutually accountable, or there's just some like, you know, hard or soft deadline on getting a script done that you sort of become like, well, we have to carve out time to get this thing done.
Yeah.
Or with this show, for a while, it was just like a thing I was doing. Well, the long journey is there's a part of this show that is from that Joe's Pub show, that like
Okay.
the Joe's Pub show, where I used to do like stand up inside of this D'Angelo song.
It was so
which is like-
beautiful.
Well, that's where I told this story about my mom, and that part exists in a different form in this show. But I was doing that for a while, but that was really only like a half hour. It just felt longer because it being inside of this song, my set was like 40 some minutes. And also I would like open the show and do a song and have a guest. So like the show would be a
Yeah.
show, but if I was just like saying my jokes, I think I only had like 35 minutes of jokes. And then I sort of put it to bed. And then I remember in 2019 having this idea with these slideshows and doing it at Union Hall. And to me, it ate so much shit. I thought it was awful. And I think people who were there would disagree, but I was like, this sucked so bad
feeling.
and was bad. And I wrote this whole new hour for it. And then I had all these slides and I was on book on a stand doing it. And I just remember being like, that fucking sucked. I don't want to do that again. And then
Was it because it was emotional, or like what part felt?
No, okay, I'll tell you, because I'll
Yeah.
walk you there, because I think I
Yeah.
didn't learn what was bad about it until like 3 years later.
I love this.
Then like COVID hits. Then
Mm.
I feel like post-COVID, when stand-up was coming back, and sort of felt exciting because like, you know, we were doing shows outside or vaxxed shows, and they were first in the while, and audiences were fucking insane. I found myself in that moment, like there was a year I didn't write a single new joke because I was just like, let's revisit some of the hits. Like it was just fun to like do stand-up again and to do
Yeah.
the bits I knew worked. And then in that time also, when the movie was coming together, I was sort of like, I need to think on what's the next thing. Because it's like, I would like to have just like something queued up for when the movie ends. That's like, I don't know, a thing I could be working on or doing or touring or whatever. And for some reason, some part of me remembered that slide bit from like 2019. And I was like, there's something to that form, but I want to try it again as a short bit. So on Butterboy, which is my favorite, was like one of my favorite stand-up shows.
Aparna.
If the listener doesn't know, for many years, Aparna, Joe Firestone, and Maeve Higgins hosted on Monday nights at Littlefield. The spiritual successor to Wyatt Sinnock's Night Train, which ran on Monday nights for like 10 years. This has always been like one of the hot shows. Yes. And I used to love doing that show. I love those hosts. I love Marianne Ways, who books it. I like that room. I loved their crowd. That was like my favorite stand-up show. So I remember at some point being like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a 10-minute stand-up bit on that show where I do all these slides, but it's going to be 10 minutes of stand-up I know works, like greatest hits, and I'm going to memorize it and not read it off a thing. And then it fucking crushed. And that's when I was like, oh, the issue wasn't this modality. It was that I wrote like a new hour about race that was like half baked. And then also I was like standing on a fucking reading from a script, not
the
performing
presentation,
it. It was just like everything about the presentation and the material was wrong, not this thing. And so then when I did like 10 minutes of stand-up where I was just exploring doing this at the same time, both at the party trick of like, hey, we're going to get through 600 slides in 10 minutes and I've memorized them all and and using it to like, one, just like that thing felt fun and exciting. The audience was eating it up. And also it made that some of these bits that were like, I don't know, 5 years old, I was like, oh, I'm fully revisiting them in a new way because I've come up with a new way to tell them to serve this thing. And I've added new jokes that serves this thing. So then I was like, well, this rules. So then I turned that into like 20 minutes and did it at a different I did the 10 minutes around town like 4 or 5 times. It was hard to find shows I could actually do it, but I did it enough to be like, this is working.
Yeah.
Then turned it into like 20 minutes. Then I remember building it to like a half hour. That was still like mostly like the half hour of greatest hits of the last 5 years. And then maybe like 10 new minutes that were just like built for this forum. And then I ended up doing that like the summer of the strike, right before the movie came out. And it felt great, but I was sort of still on the precipice of like, do I want to turn this into a full show or has it run its course? Mm-hmm. And then somewhere in the process of the movie coming out or right after, I was like, you know what? I think it could be an hour if I sort of ape the 10 minutes from that Joe's Pub show where I talked about my mom and then write a bunch of new stuff around that. Because I was realizing like some of what I have, anyway, it became thing.
It's mining your own past for these. It's so heavenly because it's like, where did it resonate most?
Well, It also became this thing where I recognized how much it's like, you know, I think there was some part of me that was like, oh, I can't tell this story about my mom that I told in 2017 because, you know, I did it 11 times at Joe's Pub and nobody saw it really. You know, it's like, one, that's bullshit.
It's such a stand-up feeling. It's such a stand-up feeling.
It's like no one actually saw it really. And then also this new modality, I'm telling it in a fully different way. And even if I weren't, I recognized how much it was like, you know, you love to see a musician sing a song they wrote at 24, at 34, and then 44 and 54. And I was like, this story about how my mom like sort of bullied me out of the closet before she passed away, which is I think like this beautiful, lovely story.
So beautiful.
Is one that I was like, actually, I tell differently now with like 15 years distance than I did 5 years after. And it's like a richer, more interesting story. So then I was like, okay, I could put that in it. And then I could just make myself write like another 15 minutes and it'll be an hour. So I booked this Washington, D.C. date. And then basically between booking it and doing it, I had this freak accident where I almost died. And I was like, well, that's...
Oh, yes. Oh, my God.
And I was like, well, this has to be in the thing, too. So then I, like, tried some of that in there and then sort of did it in D.C. and was like, actually, there's something here. And then that led me to being like, okay, I think you can bring it to Brooklyn and really work on it. And then I just sort of, like, did it at Littlefield and Dynasty Typewriter while I courted, like, people to make it an Off-Broadway run. And then they saw it and came on.
Is anyone out there?
Another salesperson enduring the endless search. Exhausting. If you want to get right to the right conversations, you need LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Whether you're looking for new leads or strengthening existing relationships at your top accounts, get right to the right conversations with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Try LinkedIn Sales Navigator now with a free 60-day trial at linkedin.com/trial. That's linkedin.com/trial.
Terms and conditions apply!
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
So weirdly, the show as it is now, which it's fun to talk to you about because on one hand it feels like finished because I've like sort of done all of the development, but it also feels like it's very much the beginning because literally next week I go into rehearsals, so it's like we're starting the process of like building this theatrical version. But 80 minutes and like half of it is sort of like greatest hits of the last 10 years, and then half of it, like 40 minutes, is stuff that's very specifically written for this show or things that have happened in the last year. But I don't think really, unless you are from the way back, you would know which was which.
No.
And that's been the joy of working with like a director and other people, is making sure they know. I was like, I don't want this to ever feel like this is a greatest hit show. It should all feel like it's just like things that serve this narrative and this device. And then, and there's like lots of stuff that I tried in it that didn't work too. That's like, oh, this old bit could work. Cause like, actually it doesn't feel right.
And, but that's stepping outside of the understanding too of like, it is that the cabal and the I love saying that, but this group of connective community, right, is so supportive. But sometimes it does feel like, well, they all know this. I have to be generating new stuff. I have to whatever. Whereas you think about like art is constantly revisited in where it resonates most. It has to be repicked over. It has to be redone. It's not once you get the special. It's like take that set and make a poem out of it. Like it should be constantly evolved and repackaged. And to do that takes a measure of like, I just got to do this.
Well, yes, and that both are true at once. I fully agreed. Where some of it was getting over, like, actually this 10 minutes that's 7 years old is completely different and new and fresh in this context and should be used again. But also that by virtue of them doing that, it opened me up to, because I was like, oh, God, I haven't written a new joke. Then the second I like did some of that and put it in this new thing, I was like, oh, wait, it unlocked. And then I wrote a whole new half hour that's
so
like,
generative.
That act like made me generate, because I was sort of like, not just wandering around being like, what's funny? I was like, oh, I'm working on this project and it's like 70% there, but I need the other 30%. And so with like a goal in mind, I'm both coming up with things that work for this thing and also just sort of like yes-anding myself and being like, wait, okay.
The show is the scene partner. Instead of just walking around with nothing to bounce off, it goes into...
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I would love for a joke to land in my brain. So yeah, I agree. It's like we both need to sort of sometimes allow ourselves to revisit things, but also understand that well, I guess it's what you're saying. It's like that act is generative. It's not reappropriative. And that it literally is generative. Like in my case, it allowed me to write 30 new minutes that didn't exist a year ago.
Yes. And what's exciting to the point, it's like very meta in what you're saying, where you're like, it's a little bit the beginning, it's literally end, because you're talking about how these new experiences evolve the same core themes of you, the same core whatever stories or jokes, and you're headed into a new experience with these things.
Yes. And speaks to what actually the show is about to me, not to get in the weeds of a show your listeners have not heard.
No, like, get in the weeds.
Because again, also when I've talked to other people about it, even Sam and designers and close collaborators have been like, what do you think the show is about? They rarely say the answer, I think. Sometimes like
that happens to me all the time.
Like, I think it's about death. I think it's about this. And I'm always like, yes to all these things. But to me, because this device has worked so much, I'm like, it really is about the idea of holding two ideas in your head at once. Like, and so that becomes the theme to me for the whole show, where it's like.
But it's also literally because they're having to read and hold you at the
exactly.
Oh, I love this. Keep
so
going.
It's like, everything I'm talking about to me is connected to that idea. So it's like when I talk about the story of my mom dying, which is like literally sad, it also is like such a like joyful, appreciative moment I have because she got me out of the closet. Or I'm telling some of these like I tell sex stories for like 10 minutes. I'm like, they are so gross, but also so erudite to me. Like I want to tell it as if it is like Tennyson, while also it's like hard academia while knowing that it's like truly nasty. So there's like a lot of that where I'm just like, I'm only sort of doing things that I think serve this idea that it should sort of like feel like two things at once. You know what I mean?
Well, I 100% know what you mean, because that's so. I did a play at Fringe last year, and everyone constantly was like, "Oh, hi, buddy. This is Vanya."
Everybody constantly was like, "Oh, hi, buddy."
I would have loved that. No, but they had all they like thought it was about death or sexual assault, all these different things, and I was like, no. To me, it was like about how like the darkest things are the brightest things. It was the two things, right? Like how the worst moments are actually the sort of catalyst for the most connective opportunities, and like. And it was so clear to me. And then you talk to all these people and you go, oh, Yeah, no, you are right. Yeah, you are right. But the umbrella isn't there.
Well, that's some of the thing we're talking about where it's like you're ultimately making a thing that's not about you anymore. So it's like I've made this thing and imbued it with what I think it's about. And then it's the audience. This is where the audience does come into play, where I'm like, I don't really need you to form it, but I need you to understand it. Like you then can have your own take on it that sort of helps me understand it more than it helps me be like, that joke's bad. It's just like, oh, your insight on it is your own. And it can be different than mine. And I'm like, great, I guess this thing has other things going on that I didn't know were there. It's witchcraft.
But that's you literally holding two things at once. You're going, great, this is what it is to me, but it's also something different to you that, doesn't change.
And then to my friend in DC's point where it's like, oh, it's about this current moment in culture of like how we'd watch things. I was like, oh, actually it's not, but yet it is about, to me, how much like this current moment in culture, the Twitterification of everything, I think just makes everybody very like reductive binary thinkers where everything is just sort of like hot takes are rewarded and they have to be simple. And it's like immediately decide if it's a 1 or a 0 is like how we've been reprogrammed. And I'm like, allow your brain to think it's both a 1 and a 0. Like, encourage, fight against that current and allow your brain to hold two disparate ideas in your head at once sometimes and just sit with that. That's like a thing I actually believe. And even in saying that, I'm reducing it. So it's like I'm literally, because of the way we have to talk about doing the thing I hate, but it's like that is sort of where it is, if anything, about this current cultural moment. It's like that's the part that I think is interesting, actually. But none of this I want to say in a fucking microphone. Like none of this is in the show as text. But
and
it's
you
like
can't
in this space where we're just sort of waxing poetic.
Yes,
it's like that's what I think about when I think about this thing.
But I'm saying you are so good at embodying the thing you're talking about. And it is a meta, and sure, it's weeds, but it is quite clear to me, right, where you're going, they're thinking in a binary. And so here is the binary of that, of you're thinking negatively in the binary. And how about positively, where the two things are true? Like you have to hold the two things instead of put them against each other.
It's also what I like about art that isn't didactic, where it's like the avoidance of saying what the thing is about, even if you know what the thing's about, allows the audience to think it's about something else, which is like more rich. Whereas the second you say like, it's about this, then the audience thinks it's about that and only that. And I'm like, well, I'm just never going to give you that. Exactly. Yeah. Schrodinger's cat, which I do 12 minutes on in my show, quite literally.
Do you really?
That's one of the new bits I wrote. There's like a full 10 minutes about Schrodinger's cat.
But it's what you're talking about though, which is why, of course you do. Like
it's both at once. The cat is dead and alive.
But it really is. And I think like but I also just think even you like interacting with the slides. Also, logistically, we can talk about that. But I think about, you did this bit, oh God, I think it might have been Cool Shit, Weird Shit. You did a bit where you did the Chain, the Fleetwood Mac song. And you had like projections onto you.
Okay, so here's what's so funny. So like back in the day, I used to host this show, Cool Shit, Weird Shit, with my friend Matt Denny. And it was like an experimental comedy show.
It was literally the best show in all of New York. It was the first show I ever went to.
Last Friday, midnight, everybody, it was like, don't do the thing you do was really the only rule. And then Matt and I would often like concoct some universe for all these bits to live in. Either we literally sort of gave people assignments of like, oh, this one's going to be this fantasy narrative, and this is the part where we meet a giant, and so you just have to do anything you want, but it's that. Sometimes we just were like, do anything you want, and then just sort of in between, as our hosting bits, we're going to be telling this story. Or there's going to be something conceptual, or it's like you're all conjuring the devil because it's Halloween or whatever, Of
course, naturally.
But we used to do this show every Thanksgiving where we'd pick an album and do the show as a listen through and give each comedian a track and be like, you just have to do a bit to the track. We were like, we recommend no talking, but what you definitely can't do is like tee it up or say something after, because it's a straight listen through. Like we press play and then it goes on. We won't hold for anything. You can't be like, pause and I want to talk for a minute. So people would just like come up with bits that they felt served the track. And then I decided every show my bit would be, I would build this thing where I would wear all white and I would stand against the screen and things would get like projected on me or on the screen and I would like manipulate them. What's so funny is when I did this show we're describing as the half-hour version at Littlefield, before I was really committed to, is this a real show? Because those things felt kin, it's funny you bring this up.
They do
as
feel
an
kin,
encore, I came out and did it. I did.
Did you really?
I did not think it worked, but I was like, oh, I forgot. I haven't done that bit in like 8 years. So I built a new one to a new song and just like at the end of my set, like did an encore where I came out and just sort of disconnected to the show entirely. Just did like a 2-minute version of it to like a Frost Children song. But yes, they did feel like spiritually similar. And that's actually based on a bit I did in college. When I did a one-man show in college, it opened with this bit where I was like, doing this big opening number, like dance piece, and then a bunch of videos of myself were on screen, and I was like doing choreo with myself. So it's all very like reiterative.
Cyclical, but it is. So I love this, and to the point also of like the intimacy of like the commentary on now. So in my play, I thought I had a lot because I cued the other character with a launch pad and did all the other lines. It was 137 tech cues. You have a million billion. But I liked how it was, I guess, exemplary in action of the distance and isolation the character was feeling. Like she was isolating herself from everyone in the world, and the idea that I'm interacting with tech and not a person on stage to me was actually showing and making people feel that feeling instead of saying to them, like you're saying, like, isn't she isolating? It's like, well, no, you're literally watching her interact with people she's still controlling. And like, I think you are interested in the same way of like exemplifying the feeling. And I think tech is so heavenly for that, because you interacting with, like when you did the performance with the Fleetwood Mac song, you timed it, you'd grab something from the top corner or like whatever, or like the space would explode and on your chest. And it is such choreo and heavenly synchronicity, but it is with an unbending partner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think some of it is I like showing you like, can you believe how hard I worked to learn this? Like there's some part of me that thinks that's funny. To be like, can you believe I did all this?
It is a little funny because there's hours.
Because you're right. It's unforgiving. It's like you have to get everything exactly right. Like you can't really, your scene partner can't play around you. You have to just, you have to nail it.
You have to nail it. And it's like you're also sympathizing with you immediately too, because you're not watching somebody that can help you if you miss a line. They're going, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And it's like, oh, that's, so you're right. It's not only is it funny, but you're immediately a winner, because it's like, if you're sensitive enough, you can feel the 1,800 hours you spent in your room going like, boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And like, to do this, how did you like align it? How did you choreo and like rehearse? Or like, was it just all thoughts put on the page?
Yeah. And then just so much time of like building out this like Google Slides thing, really. And then just like running it in my room. Like with two computers, one that was like the script and one that was like the thing. And I would just like do it like 100 times. And then I would like close one laptop and do it again without the script. You know what I mean? But then what's interesting is now more or less the show is in my head. But then part of the rehearsal is, because it's just like janky slides I built with no sense of graphic design that I just threw up there.
Which
and I'm just
to me is also funny.
Yeah. Well, now we're going to sort of, even though the assignment is still like make the show feel like I could build it in my bedroom, it's like, well, now we're in a theater and we can sort of stuntify, cuntify. And so one is we hired this guy, Teddy Blanks, whose work, great work and a great name, and whose work, because he built us a custom font so that now the whole show has this like aesthetic to it, to like how because it's mostly
beautiful
text. There's only like 3 pictures and it's almost always text in black and white. But Teddy builds fonts and title cards. So he did the title card for Barbie, for Wicked, for Nosferatu. He's like the title card guy. And he's made us a font to use. And
that is so cool.
It's awesome. He's also just like a comedy fan. He did Oh Mary, so
wow.
We have that so that like everything will just like have like a look to it that's no one else has. And then also we're hiring all these like video projection designers people. So now we've basically taken my slideshow, put this new font on it, and then most of the first week of rehearsal is just going to be rebuilding and reblocking all of this stuff so that now, rather than it just be me like memorizing these cues and wandering around, it's like, one, they're just sort of formatted more elegantly and with intention, but also it's like I can stand stage left and words come up stage right, and then I can sort of like cross and words come up there. So it's like now we're going to build in a bunch of like other physical cues for me to hit, so there's like even more shit for me to juggle.
I know. Are you a little drunk on like how much you can do now? Like
a little bit. I'm like, well, we spent like 2 years learning this part, so it's like let's spend a couple weeks trying to add more shit on it, And I don't think that part will be as intense, but it will be at least like I think it'll make it feel more theatrical and sort of like I can hit marks, and words come up around me and not just like he's just sort of wandering around talking.
Well, that's what is exciting to me too, because you like, while this is so cerebral, you are such a physical comedian. And I always remember when I saw you at Cool Shit Weird Shit, like, over a decade ago, I was like, this is very Dick Van Dyke. It's like the way you can move your body is very that like flip over the ottoman. You know what I mean?
Well, I love that.
It really is. I'm just excited to see you move.
I think it's fun to be dumb stupid, to be like intellectual clown. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, that's so that now it feels like we're entering the phase of getting to like take this thing that already sort of is working, but like make it work better and do the thing. Because I loved this from when I directed my friend Michael Cruz Kane's show, Sorry for Your Loss, that had like an off-Broadway run. That like just getting to build this team of designers and professionals who are like, let me come in and make your thing better because I'm the expert in this part is like so fun. So I'm really excited to like go and I've been talking to a lot of them and we've been like making designs and making plans, but now's the part where we have 3 weeks to all be in the room together and be like, how do we do this? You know?
Yeah. Is there any sort of like vulnerable, like intimacy of like bringing someone into something that is so, you know, you and your, you know?
Weirdly, no, because I'm just like, it's more vulnerable to me to feel like I'm alone in my bedroom and on stage doing like, it feels like it almost feels the opposite. I'm like, thank God, everybody get in here and help me.
I feel the exact same way.
Oh my God, thank God you're here.
I'm so tired.
Yeah. So no, it feels like affirming and welcoming and collaborative. Again, improv kids. It's like it's like I like having these people who are like, I want to help you do this thing.
And I can see what you can't see right now. Or I can bring in a new space. Yes. 100%.
Or even if they're just like it's just like people who know their lanes who are like, oh, I'm not here to help you you know, rethink these slides or build this joke. But they're like, I am going to light it beautifully. And I might occasionally throw you things that help you look beautiful in this light or interesting or whatever. It's like, great. You just have your lane that I don't have any understanding of. And so when you come in and say like, you know, it's going to be better if you hold your body this way for the lights. I'm like, then I'm going to do that, you know, because that is what your job is, you know?
Yeah. Trust you. But again, I also think to the point, like when I talk to actors, there is that measure of like them asking us, I go, when you are a clown, you go, I don't care. Like, tell me what it looks like. I don't care what I look like. I want it to be successful in what I'm trying to do. Like, it doesn't matter what Josh looks like. It matters what the jokes look like, you know, like if it hits, and that is like so easy to work with because it's playground shit.
I agree.
It's like, yeah, it's just dumb fun. I'm so excited for people to see this too, just because I don't know, it does feel, because it's so funny because you've had a successful career, you've been on television, you've had a very successful, incredible movie that, you know, was so funny, but it does feel like a debut of sorts.
I know, it's fun to be like, I think there's a lot of people who don't either know this side of me, or even if you do, haven't seen me do it in this way. So I'm very excited for that too.
I am too. I think that's really special.
Some of it is just like, it's like opening up a thing that I want to be a part of my career going forward, where it's like, oh, I want to be a guy who gets to like build these kind of shows. But then also some of it is, I don't know, maybe sometimes I have this instinct to just be like, don't you sort of want to do one of everything? Like, it's like, don't you sort of want to be like, well, you know, we were on our TV show and then we made our movie and now I'll do my stage show and then we're going to write a play. And it's like, it's sort of fun to be like, how can I apply this thing I have to just like all sorts of different types of things, you know?
I think it's it's what we speak on. I think it's the thing.
Rather than be like, this is the thing I did and I'm going to just do another version of it over and over again. I don't know. I'm sometimes drawn to being like, how do I find a new playground?
You have to. Well, I always think about the most successful like musicians I like, and Kendrick Lamar, his intent with each album is to embody a different type of media, meaning like one's like a film, one's like a play, one's like and I go, true artists are trying to see if their work resonates in different forms and isn't just trying to do the hit. So it's like, to me, of course, one of everything.
I think that is sort of a fun guiding light, even if it's not full Noah's Ark literal, like I can't do a thing again. It's like, I would love to make another fucking movie. And part of it is just like circumstantial of like, God, we can't get another movie made in this current climate, but that will change. But then some of it is also just like, oh, but I also did that. And so what's something different to do next? And maybe we'll circle back and do that 2 projects from now. You know what I mean? That I think both are true. Holding 2 ideas in your head.
I think both are true. But I think it's helpful for people to hear because there is also that pressure to like identify as this person who makes this. And of course, lucratively, branding wise, committed to a craft and get good at it. But if you are forcing yourself to be inspired in a space that is not inspiring, what are you doing? You know?
And also, not that you shouldn't like have things that you're like, oh, I don't want to do this or this doesn't fit my vision. Like, of course. But I often am like, for the most part, I'm like, throw me in anything and I'll figure out a way to make it work for me. Of course, there are limits on that. But I think you have to sometimes embody this idea of like, I have built this thing. And so if you need it to be a play or a show or a novel or this, or you need, it's like, I'll figure out the way to apply it to that thing, you know?
And learn about it in so doing. Like, and
right,
learn,
which is also the fun part.
I know, that
I
to me
think
is
I
the
like
best
to
part.
learn too. So it's like sometimes I like these new things because it's like it's been so fun to be doing more theater in the last year or two because I'm just like, oh, I was not a part of this world and now I feel like I am. And it's like I'm learning so much about how these types of collaborators work and these types of designers work and what their process is. And it's like you learn a lot that you then apply to other things. You know?
We apply it everywhere. It's even learning the archetypes that you didn't know existed. Like whenever I was doing theater, like back in like 2018, 2019, I loved how serious everyone was. And I didn't mean it facetiously. Like, it sounded like it because I was a comedian there, but I was kind of like, I'm obsessed with it. Like, it's just an energy I didn't know that I can use in my comedy then, and like, it's so special to be around those new spaces.
I agree. And I just love the dramaturgical approach that I feel like you don't always get as much in film and television, or you get it in a different way. I love the idea that people are sort of everyone serves the dramaturgy sometimes of just like of this idea of like, does it work for the piece though? Like
I didn't know what dramaturgy was. I
feel
didn't
like that's
know.
not always a question that's asked on other types of projects,
No. If there's like a whole resonant theme and voice and direction, it's like,
well, because the Coven is smaller. Like television film, the Coven's become so big that it can become hard to sort of have it be cohesive. You have to really, when I have all my designers and director in a room, it's going to be like 6 people, and then plus the like key producers, it's like, and stage managers, it's still only like 10 people. Like it's enough people to be like, we can sort of all be on the same page of what this thing is. Whereas
we'll find our collective thread. Yeah.
Whereas even for like Dix, which was a small movie, it's like, if you got all those designers and it's like 50, 60 people without trying. And then when you get in even more of the like, quote unquote, below the line people who are fucking essential, but like when it's like over 100 people easy. So it's like, it's going to be impossible to sort of like actually have everybody exactly be on the same page,
100%. Yeah. It's always logistical because then when people are complaining about it, it's like, well, then that's just not the medium.
That's just what it is.
That is what it is. Oh, this is so heaven. Okay, I want to give us a little bit of time for my last segment because it feels so akin to you. And also, I want to give you a comp artist. I wonder if you read. This is different. But so my final segment is called Thank You for Holding My Poems. And it is inspired by the Russian poet Anna Akhmatova, who during the Great Terror in Russia, it was illegal to publish poems of resistance. And so her and the rest of her creative collaborators, primarily female, but they just artists, would memorize each other's poems and hold each other's edits and like unfinished. And because they couldn't write it, they couldn't print it. And they called it the Gutenberg system because I always mix Guggenheim and Gutenberg, but it was the printing press. And
you
so
got it. Gutenberg is printing press.
Thank you. And so I just find it, that moves me so deeply because one, it's so vulnerable to be like, this is unfinished, this isn't perfect, hold this, memorize this. Over the course of 30 years, they did this. But two, like,
this is so badass. I've never heard of this.
It's so heavenly.
I'm going to read more about this. Yeah, please, actually,
she's amazing.
Offline me.
Her poem, Requiem, was like, it changed a generation. But I just think of poems then, to me, it can be as small as like, as an artist, right? If I go out in the world and a barista compliments me when I need it to exist with someone, that's a poem, right? Because you don't know what that meant to me. You don't know the effect that had on me, that how that inspired me to move forward or whatever it is. Or when someone just meets you in a messy moment that has a profound impact on you that's maybe not seen by everyone else, of like, hey, Josh, you're really funny. I want to take you out to lunch. Like, do this. And so I always ask people kind of whatever comes to mind when I'm telling this story of a moment that was just so impactful that might seem small, to share with us so we can hold that poem for you.
Okay, wait. That was so beautiful that I found myself honestly taking a bath in it.
Yeah, I love,
but in a good way. I was like, oh God, I love that idea. Okay, I have one. This is heavy, but it's good. When I did have this like crazy accident where I sort of like, almost drowned in Puerto Vallarta and a stranger saved my life. I was in the hospital in Mexico for like 2 nights, and I have this really vivid memory of waking up one morning where I hadn't like slept because I was in this weird ICU, and this nurse came and she sponge bathed me, and then she just combed my hair for like a full 10 minutes, just sat there brushing my hair. And I truly was like feeling so emotionally like overwhelmed and taken care of that I was like, gracias por su ayuda, like thank you for your help. And then she said to me in English, she said, no worries, This is called hospital spa. And that sort of
goosebumps.
Well, it was, trust, I say this in the show because it gives me goosebumps. Just that be one, that type of care in this moment where it's not requisite, that it's very holistic. Just be like, I'm just going to brush your hair. And then that she even owned it. She was like, you deserve a spa moment.
But also to give you the permission to be a little playful. Yeah, because it's so intimate to get a little playful and go, don't worry, this is all so loving.
It was the best.
Oh, can I tell you, that is one of the most perfect poems. That is like... That is the epitome of a poem.
Yeah, and you're right. No worries. This is called Hospital Spa. That's a poem. Those are the line breaks. No worries. Yes. This is called Hospital Spa.
Literally, because my compliment, and I end the pod with it, you'll hear it soon, is, oh my God, you're so pretty. And it's that cadence. You never forget. Like, no worries. This is called Hospital. And it's, that to me, talk about multi-world, talk about Schrodinger's cat. That moment changes everything. That moment of her deciding to brush your hair, to be tender with you in that moment, changes your whole life.
It's so true.
How powerful is that? Oh,
Queen.
That's such a heaven.
Go off, Queen.
I'm gonna cry about that later. I'm gonna be walking down the street. I'm gonna go because that's life. That is the point of life. You walk around, you change someone's life. You don't even know it. She's doing this daily.
It's more fun that way.
It is more fun that way. The other thing I was gonna say is, do you know Clarice Lispector?
No, tell me more.
Very famous writer in, I want to say Argentina or Brazil, but one of her things, I think you'd love her. She does like stream of consciousness writing. She's a genius, but her kind of attempt, she always said she wanted to do, she wanted to write a painting, and she wanted to not write about a painting. She wanted to give you the exact feeling when what you read, she wrote, that you had when you saw an abstract painting. So she wanted to concretize the abstract. And I do think that seems very akin to your mission in sort of what you're doing, which is feeling and allowing people to feel the thing that you're describing.
I agree.
I think you should look her up. You'd like her.
I will. You're going to have to offline me all this stuff.
I will. Okay. Well, Josh, can you let folks know where to find you and such?
I would love to. Follow on Instagram, Cluck Cluck Josh Sharp. That's the sound a chicken makes, then Josh Sharp. But then I would love for you to come see Josh Sharp Ta-Da, directed by Tony winner Sam Pinkleton. It's at the Greenwich House Theater in New York City. That used to be the Barrow Street where they did Immersive Sweeney Todd and the Pie Shop. I'm sure all your listeners were there. But
they were. I know it.
It starts July 7th. We're running through August 23rd. 7 shows a week. Tickets are on sale at joshsharptada.com. That's T-A-D-A. Ta-da!
I'm so proud of you. This is so special.
And you, Mo. This was amazing.
Well, I end every episode by giving my listeners and you a compliment. And I say, please know I don't think of adjectives as gendered. And I say, oh my God, you're so pretty.
Perfect.
Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasick is hosted by me, Mo Fry Pasick. You can learn more about this week's guest and the Worse Than You team by checking out the show and episode copy. Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasick is executive produced by Erica Ghetto, Mariah Gossett, and Lauren Mandel for Good Get and Disco Nap Productions. Oh my God, you're so pretty. That's God. That's God. That's God. That's the flower. God. That's God. I feel this way.